98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station.
Listen to us this and every Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono.
Igbo kwenu.
Hey.
Igbo kwenu.
Hey.
Mwano.
Hey.
Sotano.
Hey.
Matano.
Hey.
Kwesonu.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it on WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. And we welcome you back. If you are watching us for the first 1 hour, I'm pretty sure you got a treat. We had our guest, Reverend Johnson, talk about Juneteenth in a different way that other people will expect. So instead of talking about what happened and what should have happened, what he talked about is how do we go about making sure that we are on secure ground and on safe ground. Yes. How do you move forward, not always looking behind your shoulders, but how do you make sure that your future is much more secure and you don't have to worry about what happened earlier?
Yeah.
Not that you should forget, but how do we work forward? So that was a great treat. If you haven't seen it, go back and find it on Facebook Live and watch it. It will be on YouTube. Actually, on YouTube, you could find Straight Talk. Just search for Straight Talk Radio on YouTube, and you see a lot of our past episodes so that you could watch it. So welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Our other co-host is out saying hello to the guests, and he will be back with us shortly. But for the rest of the few minutes that we have, we want to be able to talk about what's going on in the U.S., that affects a whole lot of us. Maybe it doesn't affect you directly today, but it's going to affect you if you don't speak about it. It's actually affecting you in ways that you don't understand. And I'm talking about the immigration that's been in the news a whole lot. So one of the symptoms, or actually one of the effects of the immigration that we're talking about, is that there are some children being taken away from their parents just because their parents crossed the border illegally. I want to highlight the word illegally. It's illegal to cross the U.S. border without an invitation or proper papers. So that made it, even if you're seeking asylum, crossing the border at the wrong places without going through the customs process is illegal. Now, having said that, the outrage is in the separation of children from their parents just because they crossed the border illegally. Mazioves.
Well, I'd like to first start by stating, yes, it is illegal to cross the U.S. border, but let me point out that it's a misdemeanor.
Yes.
It's not a felony.
Yes.
You can't even go to prison for that. It's a misdemeanor. So, but putting that aside, I think, in my opinion, we have totally and completely framed this concept of immigration in the wrong way. So we are
binary form of
yes.
Is it legal? Is it illegal?
Yeah, that is to me, it is irrelevant.
To some degree.
No, I will tell you why I think it is completely irrelevant.
Yes.
If you want to secure your borders, like the Igbo say, when the water is muddied at the head,
yes,
and you're trying to clean it at the bottom,
you're wasting
it's
your
a
time.
more monumental waste of time.
Yes.
The question should be asked, what is driving this crazy immigration charge to United States? And let me point out, it's not just the United States.
Yes, it's
This
on Saturday. If you joined us at the program, we talked about the boat sailing in the Mediterranean, being supported by Doctors Without Borders and being kicked and dribbled about
from country to country. Yes,
between Italy and so we talked about that, but it wasn't just happening in those seas.
Yes.
On land in the U.S., there is that going on. I know actually a few weeks ago, we talked about Canada sending emissaries back to Nigeria, including the Nigerian ambassador, to go work with get the Nigerian government to try to curtail their citizens traveling to the U.S., so Canada had to work with the U.S., traveling to the U.S. and then crossing over to Canada. And we ended up, at least our consensus ended up being the same, which is there's a reason for people to just pick up in places that they're comfortable with, family and
risk everything.
risk life, property, to go somewhere else.
And that is the story that is not being told. When a young adult, or perhaps even a child,
Yes.
a teenage girl, leaves her home, travels hundreds, thousands of miles,
With strangers.
for everybody listening to this radio station that is a father,
Yes.
look at your daughter and understand, unprotected, with
What will
all
make her
the
leave
sharks
home? Yep.
that are in the way. And all you can see is, oh, there are illegals at my
Crossing
border.
the border illegally.
Now, let me give our listeners some historical perspective to this
Yes, please.
conversation.
Yes.
You know, because, you know, there is, and everybody, this is well-known historical fact. There is what is called the scramble for Africa.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Which is between 1881 and 1914. You see the occupation, the division, and the colonization of the African territories by European powers.
Yes. That's actually a book with the same name. Find it
I
on
mean,
Amazon.
Do you understand? So this was a time that Europeans migrated into Africa without visas.
And I wonder why they left comfortable places in Europe to find alternatives.
Because they were looking for opportunities. They were looking for trade. They were looking for commodities. Things that were not in Europe. Europe was just coming out of the Dark Ages. Plague has just slaughtered most of the decimated Europe. Europe had no resources, gold, silver, salt, spices, clothing, and they were also looking for labor. Now, they came to Africa to trade, but not just to trade, but also they took over the means of production through colonialism, right?
That's right.
Now, what you have now is the scramble for
North-
Europe
and North America.
and North America. Now, why do I say that? Because if those of us, especially my good friends in the Republican Party, who are the people of the book, who read the Bible, they will understand that there was something that Jesus himself said that will happen at times like this.
Yes.
Rumors of war, famines, pestilences, earthquakes, floods, and you think those things are not displacing phenomena? Those are the things that are displacing a lot of the people. And so you will have huge migration shifts. People are going to move around. Now, I heard the president say that America is not a refugee camp, but I thought that was what Lady Liberty was asking all those who were hitting the shores of Ellis Island to do. Bring me your poor, your weak, and your wretched.
So long as they are white.
You're downtrodden.
So long as they are white.
downtrodden. And those who are running away from misery, majority of the people who came to the American shores had a story. Most families in this country have a story of escaping from something, or pursuing something, or trying to get something that they didn't have.
The land of opportunities.
That was what drove the people.
Okay.
So now the question is, having destabilized the world in their time, and some of the impact of that colonial experience is still what is driving the migrants moving into Europe and coming to the Americas. Why are we all of a sudden feigning as if this is horrible and terrible?
No, but it's not just colonial times. Some of these things happened after America was not around. I mean, was not part of the colonial masters. But America, even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, disrupted a lot
Destabilized South
of
America.
South America. It wasn't
That's the- yes,
colonialism the way
yes.
we understood it but
For-
it was a lot of foreign policy ideas.
Absolutely. For us in America, that history is much more recent.
Yes.
And I keep going back. Because there is a double standard that we need to call out every single time you see it. Let me start by talking about the drug war.
Yep.
When it was crack cocaine in the inner city, it was a felony on the users.
And still people are being sentenced
So,
on the
life
same law
imprisonment for being an addict.
today. Yes.
As soon as it becomes a white American problem, the narrative shifts. Now we have treatment centers. We have naloxone being given freely to EMS, firefighters. And they have criminalized prescription of narcotics with doctors. So right now you find out that a lot of doctors are walking away from writing prescription. Go and ask people who have chronic pain what this is causing. But move that aside. The point I'm trying to make here is, let us not allow hypocrisy to cloud this conversation.
So Mazi KK, you were saying that the Republicans, who are the friends of God, should remember what he says in the good book and how Jesus said to treat the least of these and all that stuff. But it is the Attorney General of the land who was quoting the Bible and telling you how it is in the good books to obey the law of the land, because God has put every government in place and the laws are as if they were given by God.
That is it. He read the Bible. That's what the Bible says, but it was out of context.
Well,
And
it's
two,
the same context that was used to continue slavery, the same context
That's
that was
my
used
point.
to
That's
perpetuate.
the point.
my point. No, you
That's,
see, again,
so
when Jeff Sessions spoke,
Yes.
you understood where this.
Policies were
No,
coming
no.
from.
I'm not saying policies. You know where the heart is.
Yes.
That this
Out
is
of the
a heart.
abundance of the heart.
From
This
the-
is
the-
a
the-
heart.
from-
The mouth
Mouth
speaketh
of-
volumes.
No, this is a heart that America need to re-examine.
That's right.
It is a heart that took Native American children from their parents and put in boarding schools, renamed them with English names, and
said
forced them
move them away from their
taken-
culture to civilize them.
to civilize them and drive the savageness out of them.
Now, so that failed. After you disseminated their communities, destroyed
the-
their heritage, and actually more of a genocidal action.
Took
so
people
it is
of African descent, took people out of Africa, separated the families.
No, forget. No, see that. Let's
Sold
assume
their own children.
That's right.
Yes.
No. Let's assume
Dehumanized
that the
them
Africans now arrived here,
Yes.
created families.
Yes.
Then those families lost their children to the master who sold the children of the Africans, sometimes including the ones that they have fathered.
Yep.
Now, so it is also this history. What we are seeing today has an underbelly. And that is what I want America to look at and say, no, we must disavow this
That's
from,
my point.
from the past so that he'll never raise up his head again. So somebody says, I'll take your children from you to make sure that you feel the pain that I want to visit upon you. So it was an act of punishment, not so much
Deliberate.
That's right.
We had the Congress discussing torture during the Iraqi war eras.
It was called
we had to
enhanced
interrogations, and we found other ways to try to dress it. But eventually, we found that slapping the lipstick on the pig didn't make it not a pig, and we came to the conclusion that it was immoral and torture to waterboard people.
Yes. Thank God for John McCain.
How can we, if waterboarding is a terrible thing to do to soldiers, and we know it's wrong, how could it be good and a good negotiating tactic to separate children from their breastfeeding mothers?
No, I mean, so my point is, there is this heart is present within America.
And
This mindset-
it has reared up its head
Again.
of recent.
Yeah, so
because these are things that have been unfortunately hiding.
Yes.
And you think we have moved on
Beyond it.
from this darkness, this wickedness.
Yes.
But you find out that it is just under the surface. And it has just taken a small catalyst to begin to show you that there is a lot of wickedness that still exists among us in this country.
Yeah.
That we do not want to
The
speak
heart
to.
of man is always wicked. Is just the how festered this is, and how in the clear truth when you could see everything so during the daylight that people are allowing it, that the good people, you would think that some Republican senators, some Republican Congress people know well enough.
Well, they are speaking out now.
No,
now
Mazi,
that I mean, there is a lot of
Mazi, okay.
Yes.
You see, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. We need to focus on the men and
Yes.
the women that
perpetuate this behavior.
That's right, and the mindset that they have created.
that
Because
has
let me
always
tell you,
existed that is
that's
coming
right.
to them.
That's right. Because let me tell you, if our political leadership is what they assault, there should be one or two senators who will seize the floor of the Senate on a
And
filibuster
yeah.
until something is done about this.
Oh no, they will do that for healthcare. They will do that for other
No,
things.
I'm
They
just
will do
saying-
that-
no, no, no,
but
I'm
not
just
saying-
for, not for the moral
No.
issues of the day.
Let me
but,
tell you why they will not be able to do it because immigration had become the boogeyman of, if you support immigrants, if you support people coming into this country to take refuge like everybody else has done, you will be considered weak, unpatriotic, un-American, and potentially a lover of terrorists. Because everyone coming through, including a 9-month-old baby or 4-month-old baby, is a
terrorist.
rapist or terrorist until proven otherwise. So again, we've allowed this culture of bigotry, hatred, and fear to fester. So much so now is destroying our value system and who we are and what we represent to the world. Now, it's not by coincidence that today America decides to move out of the United Nations Human Rights Commission simply because they now said, oh, they are passing so much laws against Israel.
Wow.
Why are they moving out? They don't want to be held accountable for the disaster of separating children and their families. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we become a country that is a pariah, almost behaving like a banana republic.
An SH country. But
understand?
can we move this conversation a
Yes,
little
yes,
bit?
yes,
So
yes,
look
yes.
at it. Everybody is complaining. So let's say, what would have been a better way to do this? Because at the end of the day, that's what is important. Solutions.
I was watching somebody on TV, and
Okay.
they couched it to be Republican versus Democrats.
It is not.
Asked the Republican, of course, danced around, said how horrible the thing is, but said it's the law of the land, it's in the books. That's what. So the Democrat, they asked the Democrat, and the Democrat said, "Well, this is a policy." And the moderator said, "No, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, what are Democrats going to do?" She said exactly nothing, because there was no reason to start this policy. There was no law that says you have to do it this way. There is nothing that actually is making this happen, except for somebody wanting to do this.
Okay.
There is nothing that triggered this, other
Yes.
than somebody making a decision, this is how we're going to do it.
But you know the problem with what she just said?
Doing nothing.
When
The
Hitler
only- the
when
only-
Hitler started,
the only
there you go.
The only condition necessary for evil to thrive
Is
is that
to-
the men of goodwill do
You
absolutely
have
nothing
been elected
to do something.
to do something.
Yes.
So you do something.
Yes.
No matter how futile, you do something.
Yes.
But what I was going to say is, let us go to the head of the stream where the problem started. Economic blight, drug wars, failing governments, corruption. This is something that is very familiar to anybody who comes from a third world country.
So called.
Well, we know because we also come from similar circumstances.
Yes.
You have governments that are accountable to nobody, cutting deals with the same people that are holding up immigration, because the corporations that are functioning in South America are reaping billions of dollars in profit
Yep.
to the detriment, so thank you, of the same people that are running away looking for a better life. So if you truly believe that you want this to stop, why are you not putting pressure on those governments to clean up their act, begin to govern properly, so that their people may find employment in their places of abode?
Now, the other part of it is to look at North America as a space.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We walk in, we want to destroy one of the most successful economic corporation that
NAFTA?
have happened in North America.
Yeah.
NAFTA has been beneficiary to the economies of Canada, U.S.,
And Mexico.
Now we're creating instability by saying, "Oh no, we got to do away with it because it didn't work for us." So now when we disrupt that further, what is left of the Cold War era policies that have seen Nicaragua, Honduras, Colombia, and most of Venezuela,
Yes.
and most of the states of South and Central America,
Yes.
economically devastated, where do you think the people are going to come?
So actually,
So you ask yourself the question, who is being a neighbor to each other? I mean, why haven't we've been in North America for more than 400 years, and we've not been able to forge a good working relationship with South Americans and Central Americans and even the Canadians?
And we
Well,
spend
well,
billions trying to bring
we're going too
bring
far.
Western democracy to Afghanistan.
I
Afghanistan.
thought where you were going to go was to my beloved place in Haiti, right? So they are part of North America. They're part of the Americas.
They're
When you
part
talk
of the
about-
Western Hemisphere.
Yes.
So why is it that, I mean, if you look at the immigration where we started, this immigration started, it started with Haitians.
Yes.
They used to be able to come over here, get some papers, do some work, and go home, or even come because of economic hardship and be accepted. And the fight started with them, that they needed to go home. Don't mind the devastation that the earthquake caused that is still not fixed. Don't mind the support of the U.S. government with all the political junkies that you had there for a while.
Yeah.
Don't mind the disruption and the fight with the Marines and all that stuff that happened to them, but they got to go home. Why single out the Haitians first?
Now, you see, again, it goes back to what America has. And that's one of the things I love about America. Because at least we can have these conversations.
Yes.
And these kinds of things can, when they come up, it helps to reveal our underbelly. The hatred for other ethnicities within the Americas. You know, I don't like to use the word racism because there's only one human race. But there's ethnic rivalry, we must admit. And there is no basis for
ethnic bigotry.
And there is no basis for it other than resource control. And
Yes.
people want to
It's
control
always
sta-
about number one.
And people want to control the space.
Yes.
Now, are there room for everyone in America? No. For the you see again, that is where the Igbo has distinguished herself to say, look, I'm not in competition with you. You can perch. The eagle can perch on that branch.
And so will the kite.
The kite can perch on that. They are all both carnivorous animals, but they can
There's
still
room
exist
for
together. There's
everyone
room for
under
everyone.
the cross, so there should be room for everybody on the tree.
There's room and there's space. The question is, these people that are coming have always renewed our strength. They've always been the strength that keeps driving our civilization. But all of a sudden, you start demonizing them. You start making them look like they are the problem,
right?
and that they are actually the cause of your issues when they are not.
What issue?
Because,
What
again-
issue are we trying to solve? Is it the economy?
No.
The economy is booming.
There is one
Right.
issue. One issue
For
that
now.
needs to be put on the table.
Yes.
Fear of loss of control by white males.
That's why we need the women in there, the wisdom.
That's the point. America is really at the point that I believe if we don't have estrogen really in our public square in a way that will begin to bring some common sense ideas, these guys, we will use our testosterone
To destroy ourselves.
because the fight is about nothing. Nothing, period. Nothing. You know, nothing. I mean,
A land of laws where the president could decide that he's not going to put his business separate. He's not going to be able to separate his business, his personal business, from the people's business, and he's going to, in full nepotism, hire his whole entire family
No,
to
you
run the
see,
show,
again-
and be able to make any pronouncement without thinking about it. But those are not. I mean, those are okay for him to do, but there you cross the border to protect your life.
no. You see, again,
Well, yeah.
it's what is the character of any nation?
What is the spirit of the law? If we're going to go by law, land of laws,
you
we
see-
got to look at not just what's written down. What is the spirit? What I mean by that is not to. I know I threw out the president and all the separation. What I'm thinking about is I'm crossing the border. That's the law says. The letter of the law says that if I cross the border without having the right papers, it's illegal. What is the spirit behind that law? Is it that if I have a choice between saving my life or someone else's life, that I will be legal enough to allow myself to be killed and kill others, or have
No,
others be killed,
cross it.
just so that I do not follow with this?
When you cross the border
Yeah.
and you see the border agents
Yes.
and they ask you, why are you doing this? If you say, I am here seeking refuge,
Asylum. Yes.
There's supposed to be a process that is humane.
immediately, because again, this is even in the book.
Yes.
The book, there are refuge cities that Israel was asked to create. That if people run to it, so reminding people who quote the Bible,
Even
that
in
sanctuary,
your-
there are sanctuary
Even
cities in
if
the
you
Bible.
killed somebody.
Even if you kill somebody and you run in, which is in the Igbo culture, onye gbuo ọchụ.
Yes.
When you commit murder and you run to your
Dibia.
it's either you run to Ikunne,
Yes.
that is your mother's place if it's different from your father's village. But
Or
wherever you
wherever you
run,
run to.
wherever you run to and they accept and they give you
Give
shelter,
you refuge.
refuge.
It's a refuge city.
It is a refuge city, and the law of the arm of the law from your hometown will stop at the border and negotiate about after 7 years you'll be allowed to return and make some restitution to be re-enter the community. That's exactly what it is in the Old Testament. Now, my point is, those are the values that made America great. We understood that people will come here seeking refuge. We tell the story of the pilgrims who left Europe because they were being persecuted. They didn't have freedom to worship. That's why they came.
And,
That's where they
paying
found
too
home.
much to the queen for no representation.
And there were people who couldn't practice own land. They couldn't exercise their rights. They couldn't, make a living. There were people whose potatoes failed.
Yes.
And the people
Light.
were dying in
Yes.
droves. And they came over. There were people who were so poor that the best thing they could do is sell the little they have and sent their son unaccompanied to New York, to Ellis Island in New York.
Yes.
There were also people who were running away from violence in their neck of the wood under the mafiosi in Italy. And also all other conflicts all across Europe. And of course, that's the people who came, and we welcome them. America has always been a welcoming nation. And the point is, nobody comes here to destroy what it will benefit from. Now, are there few people who do bad things. There were many
Yes.
Westerners that came to Africa and did horrible things. We even saw them perpetuate apartheid up until a few years ago. So we know that there are people who have different intentions, but who, for Christ's sake,
Are we going to demonize the entire people group?
that's why. No. The point is that this is
well,
part of what
but
we see
again, you
as
see-
who we are as a nation.
You
A
see-
nation of immigrants.
Yeah. The at the end of the day, you look at whether we like it or not, America has become, well, at least, I hope we still are, the head of the free world, the beacon of democracy, where freedom exists.
Let freedom reign.
I want to take, and I encourage our viewers to go and look at this phenomenon, because at the time when the European Union was being formed and the concept of free borders, free movement among all Europeans across a common union came up, this same discussion of economic disfranchisement and economic disparities came up.
Yes.
And the question was, how do we prevent all these all the people from the poorer parts of Europe from flooding richer Europe?
And
There was a deliberate policy to go and strengthen the economies in the poorer areas of Europe, to create opportunity for the citizens in that country, and it worked beautifully well. I have not heard a single person in all of this debate talk about what
Why?
can we do.
or why is this happening? Why are people walking miles upon miles, crossing many countries to get to the U.S. border?
I think people know why. The question is,
No,
if
but
you look at all the resources you are putting in here, I think it would cost less and actually be profitable to you, because nobody is asking you to go and give money free to Nicaragua or any other country where these or Colombia or wherever they're coming from. Why are you not putting economic? First of all, put pressure on corrupt governments to straighten themselves out. It is not only those that we find economically to go against American interests that we must destroy. Look at because this is also a form of fighting for America.
Yes.
When you provide peace and prosperity in South America, you provide peace and prosperity
You're saying
in the United
if we
States
want to
of
stop
America.
the flooding of people to the border, the southern border,
Yes.
the thing to do is to go farther south to the countries they're coming from.
Give them
and put an opportunity there, because that stops the flow and
Absolutely.
the
But
march across.
Mazio, okay.
Yes.
The challenge with that is that my fellow Americans will say, here he goes, here you go again.
Policing
Why
the
should
world.
we always be the one helping everybody? Okay, I don't believe, for example,
Yes.
that a lot of Africa needs aid. This might sound funny.
I agree. I actually agree with you.
What I am asking, I have a simple proposition.
Yes.
Can this Treasury Secretary of the Treasury, Munisia, can he please go through the books, through all the banks, and those we have access in the Caribbean islands and offshore, find out all the monies that
That
politicians
those corrupt
and
Africans.
leaders
Yes.
have taken out of every country,
Yes.
and like Mazio Abasi said, don't use it as a bargaining chip to blackmail them to get what you want,
Yep.
but open it up,
Take it
freeze the money because it was corruptly gained, because they have no means of production to do that other than rob the treasuries of the other nations. Take that money and put it in a special fund administered by World Bank, given directly to NGOs in those nations to rebuild their communities, to rebuild the infrastructures, to rebuild the education, healthcare, and even create the infrastructures that would drive economic growth. That in itself With America will spend no money other than what the bureaucrats will be paid. With Africa, Nigeria doesn't need, you allow people take $1 trillion out of Nigeria, and then you turn around and then sell them weapons for
mass destruction.
500 million.
Yes.
Or you say, are we giving aid to Nigeria for 200 million or 500 million or 1 billion? It is minuscule. In proportion, is small compared to how much money that have been taken out of Nigeria that could be repatriated that are sitting in your banks. Actually, it's easier for the central banks of London and Paris, in Paris or in America,
Paris is a different case.
To begin to actually take the interest from all the looted money and send it back as.
So you're saying not even all the money, just do the interest.
No, they can take the interest and send it back to those countries, and the people will be rejoicing and dancing and flying the flag of their nation. But it's hypocrisy when we know what is actually at
driving
the root of the migration.
That's the point.
Some of it, we sold the arms to the people who are disrupting those countries in civil war.
Oh, so remember the Sandinistas?
Yes.
How did we get there? How did those people get the? How did MS5 or whatever it's called? Yeah. How did the guns start flowing in those countries for those gangs? How did they get it? Yeah. How did they get American-made weapons? Did they go and buy it in the open market, or did the U.S. with the clandestine organizations smuggle it into the countries to help the freedom fighters?
I'm going to ask you guys to help me out here because I've forgotten exactly the context.
Yes.
But there was a particular South American country that had very strong gangs in the California area.
MS-15, yep.
Was that the MS-15 group?
Yep.
Where we rounded all of them up and repatriated them. Rounded them up and sent them back to their countries of origin. Some of them were born in America. It didn't matter. We sent them all home. Well, guess what?
Chicken coming home to roost.
When they got back to their host country,
they
still had very strong ties with the pipeline in America.
Oh, yes.
It did not take very long to create very strong cartels
all
that
the way
became
back.
super rich. So the reality is this problem we see at the border with Mexico is as much a United States of America government problem as it is the problem of these refugees.
And it is a problem that needs a solution. But what we're saying is the solution that we are applying to it today is creating more problems because we're creating the next problem for the next generation.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because if the psychology of this separation, the devastation for these families is going to be both internal in the U.S. because whoever gets to stay but didn't have their family will have psychological issues that has to be worked out and sometimes maybe worked out on the rest of us. And whoever is sent back home and is bitter will have frustrations that will be worked out home where they find themselves, and it will work its way all the way up here again. So if we're going to do this, I guess what we're saying is do it right. Unfortunately, our time is almost ended. Yeah. And you're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it. Mazi Odeluga, 30 seconds.
America, Tetanola, wake up. We have to wake up and take back our values and remain who we are and not allow circumstances or people to drive us backwards instead of moving forward. Makongoro yene nechiga anya azu na aga n'iru. Onwere ebe eji azu eje. Ndewo.
Mazi Obasi.
I'm just asking people of good conscience to take time to really think about what is happening and the response of our government to what is happening and compare it to the billions of dollars that we are spending on projects that somebody asked a question recently. Who is benefiting from the 20 or so years that we have been in Afghanistan? and we have not yet come out. Who is benefiting from that foray? We all are part of this great country. There is a reason America is what it is in the world. Let us not taint that image.
And from me, we've heard a lot of people quoting the Bible this week. The Jeff Sessions and then the White House saying that it's in the Bible to obey the law of the land. I will give you one more Bible verse, and that's Micah 6:8. He has told you, oh man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly before your God. And for those of us who could speak out, for those of us who could act, to keep quiet and to keep silent is only an indirect support. Catch your phone.
There one.
WGHC 98.3 FM.
While you, but we are nothing friend from see the first time. Up to trust in send. Why you get anything you like? Long as you are right, then me alright. Me know you're mad, that's why I'm alive.
Your voice.